Long live the economiccollapseblog.com and Michael Schneider. 16 reasons why you should not live in California. I might be able to give you a handful more. But I remember my dad told me long ago, they lived in New York, Babylon area of New York. Started getting expensive, housing, everything up, time to move. California, San Diego, cheap living, let's go. We're talking circa 1976, okay? Bear with me, 1975-ish, 76, somewhere around there. So they go to San Diego. My sister's born. I'm born. We lived there till I was about 5 years old. Housing getting up again, getting expensive again. My dad saw this in New York, not doing that again. My Uncle John, which is my mom's uncle, who's no longer with us. He died in 2000. Great, beautiful man. But let's go down to where Uncle John lives in that area. Okay, great. He was like, yeah, come down. So we came down. We moved to an apartment complex. Been there, been in this general area. I mean, we've moved a little bit, but generally speaking, we're in the same area, you could say. But what's happening around here? In a lot of big cities, major cities, like, again, the New York, the Babylon, the San Diego, all that, prices are way too high. What's this crap about a $700,000, crap shack in California? A one-bedroom crap shack, $700K, please. Are you out of your mind, San Fran? But you get down to, you get to live with the rice-a-roni folks and eat that San Francisco treat. Well, that might be worth it. No thanks. I don't want any part of that. However, now, I don't know if it's going to matter anywhere you live, because when the housing market goes, it's going to go. And it's usually going to go harder in some of these areas that we just talked about because they've been so high. Like the old pendulum goes up, doesn't come down the middle where it belongs, it goes the other way before coming back down to the middle. So he says, it has been said that as California goes, so goes the nation. That is why it is such a shame that what is happening to that once great state. At one time, California seemed to be the epicenter of the American dream, featuring some of the most beautiful natural landscapes in the entire world. The gorgeous weather and booming economy of the state inspired people from all over the world to move to the state. But now people are moving out of the state by the millions because life in California has literally become a nightmare for so many people. I certainly don't have anything against the state personally. My brother and sister were both I and my sister, being brother and sister, were also born there. I certainly don't have anything against the state personally. My brother and sister were born there, and I spent a number of my childhood years in stunning Northern California. When I was younger, I would sometimes dream of getting a place on the West Coast eventually, but for reasons I will discuss below, I no longer think that would be advisable. I don't even have to know what he's going to say, just in case you're wondering, and I'm sure a lot of you don't either. You couldn't convince me to move to California if your life depended on it. Okay? But, anyways, he says, in fact, if I was living in California today, I would be immediately looking for a way to move out of the state, unless I specifically felt called to stay. The following are 16 reasons why you shouldn't live in California. Number 1. Remember the Casey Kasem show back in the day? Number 1. The top 10 or top 20 songs. Number 1. The entire California coastline is part of the Ring of Fire seismic zone that roughly encircles the Pacific Ocean. The San Andreas Fault has been described as a time bomb, and at some point there will be a catastrophic earthquake that absolutely devastates the entire region. In fact, a study that was just released says a major earthquake in the San Andreas Fault is actually way overdue. A recently published study reveals new evidence that a major earthquake is way overdue on a 100-mile stretch of the San Andreas Fault, from the Antelope Valley to the Tejon Pass and beyond. Researchers with the USGS released the results of the years-long study, warning a major earthquake could strike soon. Aside from that, number 2, out of all 50 states, the state of California has been ranked as the worst state for business for the past 12 years in a row. In what is sounding like a broken record, California once again ranked dead last in Chief Executive Magazine's annual Best and Worst States for Business Survey of CEOs, as it has all 12 years the survey has been conducted. Texas, meanwhile, earned the top spot for the 12th straight year. The stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Among the survey's subcategories, the 513 CEOs from across the nation ranked California 50th in taxation and regulation, 35th in workforce quality, and 26th in living environment, which includes cost of living, the education system, and state and local attitudes towards business. Notably, California placed worse among the 9 states in the western region in all 3 categories. Let me ask you, is it any wonder why they were so heavily voting Hillary Clinton? Worst state, okay? Number 3, California has the highest state income tax rates in the entire nation. For many Americans, the difference between what you would have to pay if you lived in California and what you would have to pay if you lived in Texas could literally buy a car every single year. Whoa. Number 4, the state government in Sacramento seems to go a little bit more insane with each passing session. This time around, they're talking about going to a single-payer healthcare system for the entire state that would cost California taxpayers $40 billion a year. On Friday, State Senator Ricardo Lara introduced legislation that would transition California's healthcare into a single-payer system. The system would be very similar to the healthcare system currently in place in Canada and would cost California taxpayers roughly $40 billion for the first year alone. Given the poor economic climate California has already created for itself, of course, this will no doubt be just one more burden on the people of California and one step closer towards total bankruptcy. And let me ask you this, with their massive CalPERS and other pension crap in California that are massively unfunded, I'm sure they got another $40 billion to throw at healthcare. I'm sure they can come up with that. Mika Weinberg, the president of the Economic Institute at the Bay Area Council, raised concerns over the financial consequences of the proposed legislation. Quote, "Where are they going to come up with the $40 billion, he asked. Well, that's funny, sir, because I just asked the same thing. He went on to suggest that adopting a state-level single-payer system is just not feasible to do as a state. I'll be honest with you, Mr. or Mika Weinberg. There's a lot California does that's not feasible, and it's going to bite them in the rear. It already is, as a matter of fact. See the CalPERS pension problem for more information. Number 5, the traffic in the major cities keeps getting worse and worse. According to USA Today, Los Angeles now has the worst traffic in the entire world, and San Francisco is not far behind. Number 6, yo, get up there now. Thanks. Number 6, a lot of money is being made in Silicon Valley these days, at least for now. But poverty is also exploding in the state. Hold on. Let's try number 6 again. I've got a zoo running through my house at the moment. Number 6, a lot of money is being made in Silicon Valley these days, at least for now. But poverty is also exploding in the state. In desperation, homeless people are banding together to create large tent cities all over the state. And the LA City Council recently asked Governor Jerry Brown to declare homelessness a state-wide emergency. Well, that's funny, because where's the second most like Californian city? New York City. And they, too, have an epidemic. Super rich and super duper poor people, tent city type of stuff happening there. Isn't that amazing? The 2 most prosperous states with the worst poor problem, homeless problem. How does that happen? Number 7, thanks to unchecked illegal immigration, crime is on the rise in many California cities. The drug war that has been raging for years in Mexico is increasingly spilling over the border, and many families have moved out of the state for this reason alone. Number 8, California is one of the most litigious. That's an interesting. I haven't run across that one. Litigious states, like as in litigation. Maybe that's what it is. Litigious states in the entire nation. According to the U.S. Chamber Institute for Legal Reform, the lawsuit climate in California is ranked 47th out of 50 states. Again, the higher the number, the worse. Every year, wildfires and mudslides wreak havoc in the state. Erosion is particularly bad along the coast, and I've previously written about how some portions of California coastline are literally falling into the ocean. And I'd like to add another one. You heard about this dam that burst the other day? Orville? The spillway? Emergency spillway? Speaking of erosion. Yeah. Number 10. California has some of the most ridiculous housing prices in the entire country. Due to a lack of affordable housing, rents have soared to wild extremes in San Francisco, where one poor engineer was paying $1,400 a month to live literally in a closet. An engineer, someone who should be highly paid, and was decently paid, but can't afford anything because everyone else, the upper class, they got to get paid too. Number 11. All over the state, key infrastructure is literally falling to pieces. Governor Jerry Brown, I wonder if can we just substitute him for Charlie Brown? Governor Charlie Brown recently issued a list of key projects that needed to be done as soon as possible, and the total price tag was $100 billion. Of course, that list didn't even include the Orville Dam, and we all saw what happened there. Number 12. Radiation from the ongoing Fukushima nuclear disaster continues to cross the ocean and wash up along the California coastline. The impact of this crisis on the health of those living along the West Coast could potentially be felt for generations. Number 13. Illegal drug use in the state is on the rise again, and emergency rooms are being flooded by heroin overdose victims. Number 14. On top of everything else, it is being reported that Russia is quietly seeding the U.S. shoreline with nuclear mole missiles. The following comes from the retired colonel and former Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Viktor Baranets. He says, what are these mysterious asymmetrical responses that our politicians and generals speak about so often? Maybe it's a myth or a pretty turn of phrase. No, our asymmetrical response is nuclear warheads that can modify their course and height so that no computer can calculate their trajectory. Or, for example, the Americans are deploying their tanks, airplanes, and special forces battalions along the Russian border, and we are quietly seeding the U.S. shoreline with nuclear mole missiles. They dig themselves in and sleep until they are given the command, he says. Oh, it seems I've said too much. I should hold my tongue. Hopefully what he is claiming is not accurate, because if it's even partly true, the implications are absolutely staggering. Number 15, North Korea is a major nuclear threat as well. It is being reported that the North Koreans are developing an ICBM that could potentially reach the west coast of the United States. Defense officials have warned that North Korea is on the brink of producing an ICBM that could target the United States. North Korea leader Kim Jong-un announced in January during his New Year's address. Number 16, finally. Someday, a very large earthquake will produce a major tsunami on the west coast. According to the Los Angeles Times, one study found that a magnitude 9 earthquake along the Cascadia Fault could potentially produce a massive tsunami that could wash away coastal towns. If a 9.0 quake were to strike along California's sparsely populated north coast, it would have a catastrophic ripple effect. A giant tsunami created by the quake would wash away coastal towns, destroy U.S. 101, and cause $70 billion in damage. Now, of course, I'm up here on the east coast of this country, California, Florida. We don't have to worry about earthquakes over here or tsunamis. We do have our fair share of hurricanes, but we don't have to worry about earthquakes. I'll be honest, I'd rather deal with a hurricane, because we don't have to worry about gas lines bursting and fires and all that crap because of a hurricane. like they do in California. We also don't have these wild forest fires like they do in California. So I could add that to the fire crap that you guys have to deal with in California. Whoa. Thanks, but no thanks. Over the past decade, approximately 5 million people have moved away from California. After reading this article, perhaps you have a better understanding why so many people are getting out while they still can. To me, one of the greatest concerns is the rise in seismic activity that we are seeing all over the world. In my latest book, I express my belief that the United States will be greatly affected by this increase in seismic activity, and California is going to get hit harder than just about anywhere else. Once again, I don't have anything against California or the people that live there. It is such a beautiful place, and it once held so much promise. Unfortunately, that promise has been shattered, and there is a mass exodus out of the state as families flee the horrific nightmare that California is in the process of becoming. Now, I do remember when I was 5, before we moved, we would go to Balboa Park, San Diego. Loved going there. And every time we went there, my dad would get chased by this damn duck. He named him Charlie. The second Charlie saw, and he could see him from a distance, by the way. When Charlie would see my dad, he'd go after him. My dad would run, And as a kid, I just absolutely loved that. It was so hilarious. The duck didn't bother me, my sister, anyone else, my dad's friend that he brought with him. The duck went after my dad. It was fantastic. And I do remember there was some kind of like walkway or like jogging thing. I don't know if you could ride your bike there or not. And in the middle was like a little, maybe a pond or a large pond. I don't think I'd call it a lake, but it was sizable, but not real big. And I remember all the trees that would grow there. There'd be these like heavy duty like vine things. And as a kid, they'd be hanging down right there in the little walkway or whatever. And I'd grab it and swing and, good old time. I remember great weather. I remember these little green things that I think it was some kind of like desert plant or, like maybe a weird kind of cactus that's not pointy, Didn't have those little prickly things, but it almost reminded me of like a real thick green bean thing. I remember like jumping down little hills as a kid with some of my friends in the neighborhood over there, and those little things were always like cool on my skin. Good memories as a kid over there, but my wife and I went on vacation to San Diego many years ago, as in like maybe 10 years ago. Hey, I don't think our kids were, I don't think she was pregnant. And she had family there. So I'm like, Dad, where do we live? Do you remember the address? He goes, I don't remember the exact address, but I can tell you the street. And I was like, well, if you can give me the street, I'm sure I'll remember when I see, being back there. I still remember a good bit. And I was like, well, what about the one before that? We lived in like this crappy like apartment complex. There's like a little 2-story thing. He's like, oh yeah, that one. He's like, I know, I can tell you how to get that one. So I wrote it down. We got there. Her folks let us, her cousin and all them let us use one of their cars. So we drove around. I'm like, I just got to go back. I got to go back there. And we ended up stopping at Balboa Park too. And my wife almost fell off a cliff in Balboa Park with rollerblades on. But anyways, we get there and the whole neighborhood is a dump. Because when I told her uncle where it was, he goes, you may want to be careful over there. It's not the best part of town. I was like, okay. I'm like, yeah, this used to be a nice neighborhood. I remember as a kid. I remember going through these 2 little houses in the backyards were back to back, and there's like a little alleyway, not alley, but it was like a dirt path kind of a thing, grass path. And this lady had like these blackberries or raspberries or something, and we would just snag them, and she'd come out and yell at us, and we'd run off. So I get back there. I'm like, I think this is the house. This is the house that we had. I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And I'm looking around. Oh, okay, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go to the apartment complex. I go down that street one time. I think that's it over there to the right. Oh my God, I'm in dead center ghetto now. Let's get the F out of here even faster. Turn around, get the hell out, gone. So that's the kind of thing that happens as property prices and everything goes up. And time for us to move. I'm not dealing with this. What used to be decent, affordable for you, prices are going up everywhere else. Time to move. Riffraff starts moving in. Gotta go. We're out. So, anyways, California, New York, wish them well. Wish them well. At least New York City. Almost all of California. This is not sustainable. Again, housing must crash. Because if housing crashes, being that that's the most expensive thing you pay for every month, you will have way more disposable income to use on other things. So it is critical that we have a gigantic housing bust worldwide, because the whole world's in the same situation. But for our purposes, we care about America mostly, right? Have a huge housing bust, massive deflation in housing prices. Starts over, decent prices, okay. Maybe they get rid of the damn 30-year mortgage and go back to what it was in the year 1900, which was about a 6-year mortgage. 40% down. Who the hell has 40% to put down in a house today? Who has 20%? Who has 10%? The data says nobody. Almost nobody. The data says people don't really have anything to put down. Oh, let's have an FHA loan, government help, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, so that you can get in with little to no down payment. 2 or 3% down payment, or you may qualify for a no down payment. First time home buyer, you get a bonus, whatever. You couldn't pull me back to California if your or my life depended on it. Okay? Take care.